I'm Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. Today I'm working on the Hearts and Flowers quilt. I finally got this loaded on the machine a couple days ago, and I got all my stabilizing stitching done, and I'm ready to do the design work. Now I stabilized by stitching in the ditch around each of the plates, and then I separated the plates from each other by stitching here in this seam. This is the area that kind of formed the bow tie, like you can see up here. This is the bow tie section. So I stitched in the ditch between those, and I still need to do the stitching up here. I missed that one. But I decided to do a fairly simple design in this, and you can see in this block here, this is just going to be the continuous curve going around, and I think that fills the block pretty well. It isn't a heavy quilting, which my original plan was to do some pretty dense quilting on this quilt, but the design I wanted to do some feathers, and I did a lot of sketching on paper, and I could not get the feathers to turn out the way I liked them. I think they just looked kind of awkward in here. So I decided to just do something simple. And so we're going to do this. And I have Art and Stitch software, which if you have a computerized machine, you may know about this. My machine is not computerized, but I still have the software so that I can use it for things like this. I drew out my quilt layout here, and then I printed it off and decided to do some design work on it. And this is the design I'm going to use. Now this is like the layout page that shows the whole quilt on it. And when I printed out the design, it comes in, I think it came out in 4 pages, so that these pages can be taped together and make a bigger layout so you have more room to draw on. And I considered doing a couple of different designs, and actually I stitched out this design first in that first block, and I didn't like the way it looked, so I decided not to do that. Another design idea for the purple area would be to do some kind of a filler, and this is kind of a daisy echo filler. And then this one is swirls, which would have been probably, I think, would look good in this. But I don't know, it just wasn't striking me, it wasn't grabbing me until I came up with this design here. And I thought, well, you know, it's the same design in both, but it looks a little bit different. So I decided to go ahead and do that on my first try, and I like the way it turned out. So this is what I had decided to do. And then I printed out the entire design and drew it all out, and I liked the way it looked overall. So this is what we're going to do. And in this design here, I did not draw any extra quilting in here, but when I quilted it on the machine, I did kind of do an outline stitch here. Just gives it a little extra quilting right in here. Another thing I could have done instead of going along that line is to go like this, just to dip in. So a lot of different design ideas that I could have used on this quilt, but I'm going to go ahead and quilt this first row and see how it turns out. For the background of the quilt, I decided to use a lavender thread. This is by Signature, and it's 100% cotton, a 40 weight thread. It's a little bit darker than the color of the fabric, so the quilting stands out really well. And this is a line dancing or a continuous curve type design, and you can see how I'm quilting this here, and it goes really quickly, and it's a real pretty floral type design. The machine is also in regulated mode. That way I can pause slightly when I get to the tips of the design, so I get really sharp points. Now this design is very light, but you can also add a filler in there if you want to on your quilt. Now for the plates, it's the exact same design, except it's in a different shape, so the design looks a little bit different when you're completed with it. Now the thread is a different color. It's still a signature thread, 40 weight, 100% cotton, but the color is baguette, and that is a light tan color, and it's very neutral and it blends well with most fabrics. That way I didn't have to worry about changing thread colors when I went from one plate to the next, because the colors are pretty varied in this quilt. Now for the outside of the plates, I did an outline stitch about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch inside the edge of the plates, and that just stitches it down a little bit more and gives it a little bit more definition. And you could also do another curved design in there, do a little twist in there, whatever you want to do to change that design up a little bit more. Now the binding on this quilt, I used a modern fabric, and it was a neutral light beige color. And then here's a photograph of the completed quilt. And I'm glad that is all done finally. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.